Hey, Jason Rice from Lot Pop. This is another Lot Party episode. Again, Lot Party shows all about what you can do on your virtual lot to stir things up, drive more traffic, get more exposure on your inventory, be better in process management. And part of the show is we do a weekly featured dealer of the week. This is Schomp Automotive Group out of Denver, Colorado. They do a phenomenal job. I literally, over the decades, have been into probably over 1,000 dealerships over those years, and they're definitely one of the top dealers, probably top 3 dealers I've been into across the country. They run a great operation at their Honda, BMW store, one price operation too. They do a phenomenal job. If you'd like to see your plate up there, I mentioned in the show, send us your plate. Address is at lotpop.com. Just go to contact us. Again, all these episodes are on iTunes. Go to Lot Party or Lot Pop either on iTunes and or SoundCloud if you happen to have a Droid device. Also go to YouTube, and all the shows are uploaded at Lot Pop channel on YouTube, and also the Auto Dealer Live network also has all our episodes. But on this episode, we're going into October, November, and December, which is sometimes those slower months in a lot of markets. And some dealers, end up waiting. If their inventory's aging up, they'll end up waiting until the selling season, January, February, March, to help clean up their inventory. But don't wait then to clean up your inventory. Use those months to be profitable, to make some good growth. So use these months to get better processes in inventory management and to clean up that inventory. So when we do go into bigger selling season, January, February, March, tax season and stuff, use those months to make money, not to just clear out your aged inventory problems. And so on this episode, a while back, I put 6 tips together to help you manage that inventory more effectively and to be able to be more profitable, volume and gross. Our dealers, their average turn is 14 days. Our top dealers' average turns over 20. I know 20 could be a little too fast, and we're trying to build that up for those dealers. But these are the same tips that you can utilize to get the same results, clean up your inventory. So watch these tips. After the tips, Auto Dealer Live is next. Thanks.
I've been able to travel the country and been in thousands of dealerships, and I know the dealerships that I mostly go to that are struggling with gross and volume, it's not because they're cheap pricing their fresh inventory and losing gross that way. The reason is they're pushing out too much aged inventory. And the reason why a car ages is because we lose focus on it, or we tried the hope and change mode. And what I mean by that is we usually will focus on 2 areas as a used car manager because we're so busy wearing all these different hats. One area, when we sit down and manage our used car inventory, is the fresh stuff: photos, price, descriptions, get them online, and we make sure that those are taken care of. The second place, because we're scrambling, that we focus on is our aged inventory and make sure that those things are getting out of there. But what you lose focus of a lot of times is those middle bucket cars, the 20 to 45, 50-day-old cars, because they're no longer on your radar. And a car ages, again, because we lose focus and they end up bleeding through because we're doing that type of pricing, or because we don't want to face the realities of that car and take a hit on it on a fresh inventory. So we put it out there for a little bit longer than we want to and hope that somebody pays too much of it for it, or the market changes. So one of the areas that will help you improve your used car operations is actually tracking and trending out where you're selling your inventory out of. What percentage are going out 0 to 30 and what percentage is going out 60 plus. And here's a chart here of what we do with our dealerships that actually week after week we look at the last 2 weeks of sale rate and look at what percentages we're pushing out. The goals are this: the 0 to 30, you want that. Our top performing stores will push 60-70% of their sales out in the first 30 days. If you can lease that, get up that to 50%, you're doing okay. Then the 60 plus, you want to be pushing out 10% or less. So if you trend and track that out, you're going to know exactly where you're at, and then you're going to make adjustments throughout the week to make sure you're hitting and obtaining those goals. And as again, you can see on this trend, you can see that green line going up. We're pushing out more fresh inventory, and what that does is gives us more gross profit. So again, that's our first tip of 5 on how to improve your used car operations with things that you can control. Thanks. Like I said, this is the second video of 5 video series. In the first video, I went over how you want to track and trend where you're selling your units out of. What percentage are going out 0 to 30, what percentage are going out 60 plus. And every dealership that I go into that struggles with gross and volume, it's not because they cheap sold fresh inventories, because they have too much going out aged. And so the reason why a car ages is we lose focus on it. So the second tip, again, the first one was trending out and figuring out where we're pushing it out, and then we're going to react to it to make those changes, and that's what we're going over here. But the second tip is the reason why it ages is we lose focus. All my dealers actually use vAuto, but there's other systems out there like First Look, AAX, and other pricing tools out there. But when we go into their vAuto, the first place that I go to address inventory is I sort it by last price change. And again, if you go into dealerships that's struggling, or if you look at your own inventory, a lot of times we're going to see cars that haven't had a price change 30, 40, 50 days. Because again, we addressed it day one, we price changed it we put a price on it day one, but because it's not aged yet, we lose focus. So I go in there, sort it by last price change, and any car that hasn't had a price change in 2 weeks, we're going to attack and we're going to look at it and see if we need to make an adjustment. Because in 2 weeks, the market can change. Right now, the market I've seen drop 1 to 3% in that 2 week window. So we're pulling up cars that we changed price 2 weeks ago. We're adjusting it, and we went from 97% to 100% in 2 weeks. So now we're readjusting it back down, and we might be at 97% again. But the market drops 3%, we're dropping 3%. So my tip is to improve your used car operations, to prevent cars from bleeding through, for something that you have total control of. Sort your inventory. Look at the last time you addressed that car and did a price change. If that car is not getting activity after 2 weeks at that price, attack that car and start making changes. So if you go into your inventory, address cars that price every other 2 weeks, attack that inventory, start changing those prices, you'll have less cars bleed through an age. And again, that will increase your used car operation. That will increase the amount of cars going out fresh. Thanks. All right, I'm going to go over the third point of how to improve your used car operations that you have total control of. Every morning you probably show up and you drive through your lot and do a physical lot walk in a way. And you go look out for holes, you go look out for cars missing plates and deflated balloons and dirty, and you make sure the porter or whoever on that lot, or do a lot party and rearrange it. But we make sure that lot's standing tall for those incoming customers. But what a lot of dealerships don't do is their virtual lot walk. Go online and see how your cars look there. There's so many times that we do a virtual lot walk for a dealership and we see photos that are blurry. We see photos that the car's upside down, or there's fingers in the photos blocking the car. Or I've even seen the wrong thumbnail, a Corvette thumbnail, when it should be a truck. You got to go out there, do your virtual lot walk. Make sure your photos are standing tall. Make sure they're in a good order to drive VDPs and leads. And make sure your comments match up to your descriptions. Again, so many times I've seen a car with a roof in the photo, not in our comments. That is costing your search results. Somebody's looking for a sunroof, you're not there even though that car has it. Or vice versa. We put sunroof in our comments and there's no picture of it. Customer can't validate it's there. They might not waste the time to make the trip if they can't see it. So do your virtual lot walk. Make sure your cars are standing as tall, if not taller, online, because you're going to get 100 times more people online than you would your physical lot. That right there will help your inventory turn. You get more exposure, you're going to get more leads. That, again, will improve your gross at your dealership. Thanks. All right, so we're going to go over what an SRP and a VDP means. These are stats that are on sites like AutoTrader, Cars.com, CarGurus, and maybe your own website. But what an SRP is a search result page. So basically when the customer does a search on AutoTrader, Cars.com, and they have 25 or 30 cars listed there, if your car is one of those on that page, that's a search result page. Now, some Cars.com will include you even if you're on page 3 or 4 sometimes. Some of those sites do. Now, that's an SRP, that's an opportunity for your customer to see your car. A VDP is when they actually go through that list, see your car, and click on it to get more details. They go to the vehicle detail page. That's your VDPs. The more VDPs you get, the more phone calls, emails, and people that should be showing up on your lot, the more sales. But in order to get that VDP, you need to get the SRPs. So I tell dealers that you need to be looking at these SRPs and VDP stats daily. Your total, how much you're doing for the store, and is it going up or down? And look at it, the individual cars, and see how those cars are reacting to the market. Are we having bad stats? So do we have a bad price, bad photos, bad descriptions? So if you can track and trend out, we could see an example here of what your SRPs and VDPs look like on a weekly basis. So I said look at them daily, but track them weekly. And if you're taking some dips during the week, make an adjustment in your inventory so at the end of the month you're not wondering why business is slow. And business might have been slow because you didn't have the SRPs and VDPs that you had the month prior. There's other things that drive the SRPs and VDPs. I'm going to go that in a deeper dive in another video. I've covered SRPs and what drives those in another video if you want to check that out. But again, look at your SRPs, VDPs daily on your total inventory and individual cars. And then that right there, once you start managing and monitoring those, you're going to maybe be able to make adjustments, which will get you help turn your inventory quicker, which then should drive your gross profit and volume. We're going to go over the turnaround time of your inventory. That turnaround time is so crucial to have success at selling cars fresh. Get to that 60-70% selling in the first 30 days, which drives your gross profit. And that goal should be no more than 3-5 days tops, 3 to 5 days. I know in reality it's probably for you 7, 10 to 14 days. And a lot of that has to change. Your gross profit is driven by selling fresh inventory. And in order to do that, you need these cars photoed, price description, and online. I have dealers that have 150, 200 cars, and they're doing it within about a 72-hour turnaround time. Now again, that's all process driven that we're going to have to manage and monitor. There's some things out there that can help you do this. There's companies out there like Rapid Recon that will track all those things. There's in your vAuto, there's a life cycle summary that you can start tracking and trending those things out. Or you can do something like an Excel spreadsheet, and that's what that dealer does that does it in 72 hours. They have an internal Excel spreadsheet or a Google Drive doc that they have everybody have access to, and they timestamp that car going through those processes. If you can shave off 2 or 3 days of your turnaround time, and you times that by 12 times in a month or a year, that's almost extra 30 days faster these cars in a year going through. That gives you an extra month of selling every year. So if you can just shave off 2 or 3 days of that turnaround time, get cars online, photo, price, description better, you can increase the amount of cars you're selling fresh, which then increases your gross profit. And again, that can then also drive your volume. Hey, we just went over a 5-video series where we went over 5 things that you have total control of to improve your used car operation. Give you a little quick recap. We covered what percentage you're selling by age, what percentage of our solds are by age buckets. We went over knowing your SRPs and knowing your VDPs. Went over last price change, make sure we're addressing cars that we haven't touched in a few weeks. We also went over doing your virtual lot walk and making sure that the cars are standing tall. And the last thing we went over was how fast are we getting them online. I was hinting to 2 things that probably should be on this list, but I didn't, because you don't have total control over. Those aren't things that you can go in on a daily basis and fix. And one of them is appraisals. Appraisals obviously affect our used car inventory. Obviously it affects how our gross is, how our inventory sits, but we can't control it. We can't go in that day and say, hey, I want to do 10 appraisals today and take in 5. We just can't control our appraisals. We also can't control what we are appraising. We can't say, hey, I want some good moving cars coming in today and I'm going to step up on them. So yes, appraisals are very important. One of the things that you have to get better at, increase that closing percentage on appraisals. But again, I just wanted to cover things that you have total control of. The second thing not on that list that is very important is stocking the right cars, going to the auction, seeking them out from private sellers, having the right inventory mix. But again, it's not a lot of our control. We can take a shopping list of 2,000 cars running to the auction, narrow it down to 50 or 100 cars we want to go there and buy, have a strategic game plan put in place of what bids and that we're willing to do. But those cars sometimes slip out from underneath our hands because the bidding's too high and we lose them. And sometimes we come home empty-handed, or we just buy what we can get for the sale because we need 10 cars, so we buy 10 late model program cars. So we don't sometimes have a total control what we stock. And those things are very important, should be on your checklist as far as things that you do improve at your dealership, but again, you don't have total control of it. I hope that helps, and I'll have more tips and videos on how to improve appraisals, how to stock right, but again, I don't think it's something that you could control like those other 5 tips that if you grind those down on a daily basis, those will improve your gross and profit and volume. Thanks.
Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by TrueCar.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hey, how are you today, Dave Villa and David Cribbs?
I wonder if anybody ever thinks that we go to like the mental institution to get you right before we open, because you open that way. You get.
I don't have a set opening. I like to be loose. I like to be fancy free, footloose and fancy free. They call it for kids. Why would I go to the? Why would you wait?
Would say
that's not no. Why would I go to the mental institute? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
No, I'm saying that your intros are always like you don't.
Because I don't like force. Like, hey, we're back again. Like, I mean,
you do it this way. Like, okay, pretend you're me.
Yeah, I pretend like I'm
like say something like, hey, I'm Tommy. Go ahead, you're me. Just,
Oh, okay. And we're here. We're here at Auto Dealer Live. How you doing, guys?
hey, everybody.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, everybody. Hey, boys.
Baby root. Like that. Like
I
that.
love you.
Oh, look, he's frozen like that. Look, he's
awesome.
froze.
Frozen. That's pretty cool.
Frozen.
He
with my
froze.
head
He
down.
froze
Well,
dapping.
you can't see what we can see. Yeah, Cribbs is frozen down
Looked like
here.
he
on
was
the
he was
monitor.
dapping.
You were dapping.
I was trying to, cater
True
to
Car,
the
baby.
sponsor.
Look. Yeah, they're showing off on some of our sponsors there.
Look at the big TV behind us. Look how big it is.
That's
That
a real
thing-
TV. But
That thing is actually
touch
Yep.
it so they don't think we're in front of a green.
that was the Bucks just redid their jumbotrons and we got their old one for the back.
Yes.
we got the old one.
Yes. We're in our new studio.
Love the new set.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I do too.
I love it
room.
too.
Still smells very painted. Still smells very new. It's got that new studio scent going on.
What is new paint behind us?
Oh, that's what it is.
That was Louis Armani.
Luis Armani.
It was actually Dolce Gabbana.
Thank
Dolce
you. Thank you.
or Dolce.
So I think we got a
Good show.
you took one. Okay, never mind. You took it.
Well, go ahead.
No, you took it. You said it. No, go ahead with
What's
it.
some other synonyms for good?
Great,
You let the
awesome,
cat out of the bag.
stupendous, fantastic, phenomenal,
Amazing.
amazing.
We got plenty of words left. I didn't take them all.
Oh, good. No, finish your thought. You're the boss. You're the owner of the. You're the owner of the company and the host of the show. Host of the most. Go ahead. Why does it sound echoey when I do that? It sound echoey to you guys.
Can you please stop screaming on the microphone?
Does it feel like Tommy's high maintenance when we open the show?
Yes. Tommy's always high
I'm high
maintenance.
maintenance now because I don't do anything else the rest of the show. So it's like I gotta get it all in now. Well, it counts, and then the last 5 seconds of the show.
Oh, that's so not true.
You know, it's funny. We should do a word count sometimes because of how many talk. I would bet you Tommy would be surprised how much he actually talks in the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he probably talks a lot. But
Yeah, he talks a lot.
I
you
think
give a little like good quick comments that are like you'll say something, but then you'll go on like a little bit of a jokey rant
Yeah.
that kind of goes on for a few times, and then you
Yeah.
repeat yourself
pork,
when it
pork
comes
Why
to
are my
ribs.
ears cutting in? and
I'm
out?
known for his Tommy Elwell, known for his jokey rants.
I tell you, I'm
Tune
gonna
in
rip-
next week on
I'm gonna rip
IDL.
this cord out of the wall. It's
gonna be huge.
Out of the wall, I said.
Huge.
So, man, we got a great show today. We have the first of two. Next week is part two with different guests of our principal's office panel. You know, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've been in the principal's office. But let me tell you something, man. I got a little nervous hearing the principal's office because I thought about middle school, you know, when I was in 7th grade and they still were allowed to paddle your butt.
Bro, I was gonna say the same thing. Elementary school, they had, outside the principal's office, they had a paddle straight up pinned up on the wall.
Oh no! Well, they didn't. They unpinned it from the wall for me many times, and the dean of the
believe
principal.
that? You millennials believe
Dude,
that?
My grandpa used to be a principal, and he every time that he had to like spank a kid with the paddle or whatever, he would make them sign it. So like his paddle had a bunch of signatures from all the kids that he.
Well, mine would have multiple
beat that
signatures
A.
of me on it, the paddle. But I'll tell you this, man, the little thing had holes in it, and I swear to you, dude, it stung.
It's for air, and so there's nothing.
It's
to,
no drag.
It's aerodynamic.
Nice and
so you
aerodynamic.
get the maximum amount of speed.
Oh, it would hurt. And
Put
you
like a
but here's-
spoiler on the
hey,
back of it, just
you want that crazy? In third grade, check this out, Ezra. I'm 44 years old. You appreciate? Do you want to? You young?
1961.
44?
We're going back
44.
You're 44?
1961, the third grade. Go ahead.
So yeah, third grade in 1979, right? Seriously, 1979. Mr. Whitehurst. Where are you at, Mr. Whitehurst? You still alive? Yeah, Mr. Whitehurst. They were allowed to spank you in class. I'm not kidding you. So check this out. Third grade, I was horrible. I was a class clown, and he pulled me up in front of the class, and he bent me over a desk, got a textbook, and spanked me like 3 times in front of the class. There was no going to the principal's office. It was like, hey, I'm going to get spanking in front of the class. Like, can you imagine if they did that
We
today?
bring it back. We
That's
bring it back.
fantastic.
I used in the third grade. No kidding. In the third grade, and now we'll go back to 61.
Right. You took it from me.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, you didn't take it from me because what did they use for a paddle back then? A stone hedge.
But
You like that, huh? thought that
I was
funny.
actually in a pod, and there were 4 classrooms. There were 4. They called it a pod.
I know what you mean.
There were 4
I
classrooms
was-
going on at
yeah.
the same time.
Use a
and
dried
they-
out tail
they
of a
would-
beaver, dude.
I know what you mean.
They would each face the
Smack his
opposite
genies.
direction.
Right.
And right after recess, everyone who got in trouble in recess, all the 4 classes would come back in, and class would get going. And that was the time, the designated time after recess, where everybody got beat. And they would literally line them up. They had like 20 kids getting paddled every day after recess, and and there were 4 classrooms going on. It was
And
crazy.
we wonder why the generation that came before some other people that
Here goes
exist.
the millennial rant.
Wonder why they're more disciplined. Wonder why they fight for our country. Wonder why. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe there's nothing to that. That you'd be lined up in front of your peers after lunch. After you have a nice lunch, you go to recess. You're on the monkey bars playing around, and then you know you got to go in and get corporal punishment in front of your friends.
Hey, if you're listening today, still weigh in. Weigh in.
No, it's still, if you didn't shut it off already.
Hey, weigh
Hashtag
in.
spanked.
Yeah. Hashtag Auto Deal Live. Hashtag spanking. No, but
Hashtag
if you're
slash
still
tags as well,
listening,
because these things have been dry.
Slash tag.
These things
Great.
have been dry as crap.
Tell 'em,
These-
Ezra, tell 'em,
These things
please.
are drier than a dinosaur's turd right now because they straight up, y'all are not being funny anymore, and y'all used to be all about it.
Well,
and you know what? It makes
They got
our
too
job
serious.
harder.
People are getting
It's too
a little
serious
bit,
now.
People are getting a little bit mad at Tommy. They're taking it out on him. But listen, real quick, if you're watching now, we'd love to hear you tweet about your experience in the principal's office. All right, and I'm talking about the principal's office. If you have an experience in that, give us your experience. And but speaking of, guys, as we shift gears here, we only have a minute or two before we have to move on to the segment. We have a great group of dealer principals on this week, and then we have another great group on next week for the principal's office, part 1 and part 2.
That's where we were before.
And
we
we're going
did
to be
that.
discussing, we're going to be discussing some really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about competitive environment. What should GMs and GSMs be focused on? We're going to talk about, Dave. We're going to talk about the desk manager. And we're going to be talking about short deals and some of the tricks of the desk and some of the, is it effective or not for the dealer principal? And we're going to talk about a lot of things. Auto loans, where they're at and how they're how they're playing out this year. So we're going to talk to these principals about this. But if you have some questions you'd like to ask, we want to open up the phone lines today. I didn't even really go over this with anybody, but I think we're good to do it. If you guys can get the number up, 813-574-1820. It's on the screen. I'd like to take some questions from our audience today. If you're listening and you have some questions that you'd like to ask our dealer principals, or on Twitter using the hashtag AutoDealerLive, the screen in front of us, we can see your tweets. And we'd like to get them on air as well. What do you guys think about today's show, man? 30 seconds before we go to commercial. You guys tell me real quick your opinions on today's show and what you expect.
Well, I expect to hear great things because we're talking to GM owners. It is the principal's office. And the cool thing about the principal's office is you can really talk about anything in the principal's office because ultimately they really run every single department. So there's no subject matter within the dealership that's off limits. And it's a great opportunity, especially if you can call in and get that question answered by a dealer principal.
Might be a good question. Like, hey, y'all hiring?
Yeah. How do I move there?
Y'all hiring?
Also, real quick, shout out to Kevin Campbell saying that he's only tuning in today just to provide us with quality slash tags. So,
Thanks,
what's up,
Casey.
Kevin? You're
Good job, buddy.
the beast, man.
It's about time, Kevin.
You
hey,
are the
Tommy,
beast.
today's
Yes.
show.
I believe that we're going to hear smart people that know their business and they know how to convey what they do well. And if you have an open mind and you actually care about your own business, maybe you take some notes. Maybe you'll learn something on this show. Not from me, but from other people, because I will not teach you anything. Except for
The next up right now, before our principal's office
Nothing was
panel,
good.
the next up on Auto Dealer Live, right this very second, brought to you by Serial Sales Pro, is Slash Tags.
I'll teach you how to slash tag.
I'm just kind of doing it for you in honor of you.
Thank you. This is Tommy Elwell, and welcome to IPD Cribs. Come on in. You know, every good crib has to have a great studio. So as you see, we're actually, pardon our dust, if so we have a few extra things going on here, but we've actually expanded our studio. This is we're finishing up here this week. This is kind of the old studio, at least a portion of it. So all this is gonna be spread out. We're gonna make this look professional, make it look like it should. And if you come in here we go. We got the main room, if you will. This is our call center and BDC. Come follow me. Dave Villa's office, the big boss's office. You know how we do. Couldn't have another stitch of any other knickknack or what do they call them, tchotchke up in this piece. Stock full of tchotchkes. That's what we like to do here at IPD. We're gonna make sure that there is tchotchkes, as many tchotchkes as we could possibly fit. Got the fridge, everybody gotta check out the fridge. We got all the Pellegrinos and the Perriers. Flavor waters, come on. Aquatic goodness. What do we have here? Some things that glow, some things, I don't know if they glow or if that's just, I don't know what that is actually. That's a shrimp right there. Nemo. Check me out. I'm here to work. TVs, windows. TVs and windows, very important. Like I said, again, pardon our dust. We just redid this is our break room, our lunch area. Everything's gonna be expanded. We've already expanded it. We're gonna have some new tables in here. We need to get more tchotchkes in here. We'll have to get some from Dave's office, tchotchkes. People are like, Tommy, you guys look like you're doing pretty good. You bet you're doing good. You know what's an indication of a healthy office? Supplies. What you need? Uniball jet streams. Fully stocked. Green screen, making movie magic. Now this is where the magic happens. Welcome to the sales room. You got Pinky McGee over here. He's having a picnic. Look who it is. Maybe you've seen him before. Think of it like he's practicing for closing a deal. That's what he's saying. He's actually using an analogy, folks, because when you open, right, what's a natural progression? What's a natural process of an open? It's to close. Dave Villa teaches it all the time. Look at this. I left this door wide open. I didn't close it. Shut off the light and close it. Let's get the slash tags. Come on. Hey, everybody. Hi. How you doing? Good to see you today. I hope all y'all are doing really, really well. It's another episode of Slash Tags, and I gotta be honest. You guys are gonna be put on warning. We're gonna put out the warning now, and next comes restriction and then punishment. Okay? Warning, restriction, then punishment. Like I'm your parent. Slash tags were a little weak this week. Gotta be honest. Because of that, I'm now going to mispronounce all of your own names as I read your tweets. So, let's begin. Mr. Arnold Tigerina said, "Affliction rocks," or something like that. And then Ed Brookins said, "Arnold Tigerina, did you get sick of Ed Hardy?" Because Ed Hardy, and he did a wink. And then Arnold Tigerina again said, "Headphones don't work well with hearing aids," because I guess he's alluding to Dave being old and he can't hear good. And do the Hulk Hogan. Remember that? No. You weren't a Hulkamaniac. So Chris Benoit, it's French, said, owner's son graduates from college and here's a dealership. I now bequeath to you, son of mine, of my fruit of my loins, I bequeath to you ABC Chevrolet. And then the final tweet actually called us out on last week's tweets not being that funny. So imagine now we're getting deeper in the hole, because you know what a rut is, guys? It's a grave with both ends kicked out. We're in a rut. Let's get out the rut, okay? Because Steve Stanting said, so you've decided to use only unfunny tweets from now on as #tags? Oh, Steve. Got a good point. So that's all we got this week, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, warning, restriction, punishment. So forget Auto Deal Live. Let's just #/tags. Let's be funny. Let's be amusing. Don't make me come back out. Don't make me come out there and have to friggin' regulate. Straight up regulator style, like Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, straight up Young Gun style. You want me to come out there like that? You don't want that. I've said my piece, but I want you to have a great day. And I love you. Bye-bye.
Hey, welcome back to Auto Dealer Live. And the next up is our principal's office. And we have with us today John Marazzi, managing partner at Brandon Honda and Sun Toyota. We've got Bill Feinstein, president and dealer manager of Planet Honda. And we also have Matt Lasco, vice president of Lasco Auto Group. Welcome, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Hey, guys.
So I'm going to jump right in, and thank you, gentlemen. We're going to go right to John Marazzi. You know, John, I know you're here in Tampa, in the Bay Area. It's a really highly competitive market. There's several franchises of both dealerships that you operate nearby. So what do you, as the owner, what do you have your GMs and GSMs primarily focused on right now? What do you think is the most important thing in a heated, competitive market?
Well, it is a super competitive market. Everybody's trying to grab share right now, and more importantly, we're trying to hold our margins. What we're doing now is we're trying to get rid of that segregation that most dealerships have with the typical sales tower and sales floor, and that segregation with the service drive selling, and more importantly, the internet department. So what we're looking at is on our CRM, on our dashboard every day, we got our GSMs and our GMs in both stores looking at every internet lead, every sales call, and every piece of walk-in traffic. It really is amazing that 70% of our traffic's coming in through the internet department or through the service lane, and most dealerships don't pay attention to that at all. So we literally, when we get a lead assigned or a lead that comes in, that lead is assigned to one of our desk managers first, and then they assign that as a secondary to one of their salespeople that's on their team. So now we don't have BDC people getting paid $13 an hour, or your internet managers that are handling 100 leads a month. We now have our desk managers involved and our salespeople involved. They're dispersed more evenly, and they're looking at every single opportunity that comes in through any avenue of the store. So, I mean, if you're not doing that now, it's probably something you really want to dive into and get involved in.
Matt Lasco, thanks, John. Hey, Matt, let me ask you that same question. I mean, it's a competitive market, as John alluded to, and it may be slightly different in Fenton, although you compete well outside into going into obviously the big city. But in this tough environment, what should GSMs and GMs in this environment, Matt, be focused on?
Well, I would say first I agree with John. We're focusing on really reviewing every opportunity, but the area that we're trying to hone in the most on is literally just customer experience. We feel like that if we can train our team in every department, whether it's sales, internet, office, service, to deliver the best experience around, that will set us aside from the mediocre experience that our competitors might be offering. And so we're genuinely dedicating all of our training into making sure we listen to a client's needs, whatever that automotive need may be, and following through with what we say we'll do at time of sale. It allows us to grow. The repeat referral business and owner loyalty that we gain is where we see our growth in the future.
That's good.
I had a question for Mr. Bill. You are with us, right? Correct, sir?
Yep.
I am.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I had a question. I'm a little selfish on this question. No one else is gonna know what we're talking about. But when it comes to vendors, Bill, what do you look for in a vendor? What has to jump out at you to say, hey, I want to partner with that guy because he knows that company's got it together. They know what they're doing.
Well, I think, reputation is very important. You don't want to be with somebody who, is a fly-by-night organization. You want to do business with people that have been in the market for a while and have proven experience. I think credibility and trust is really, really important. I think you got to have people that on the other side of a contract that you trust. You trust their data. You trust that they're keeping your data safe. And I think it's also a matter of they've got to bring some level of market expertise and some kind of differentiator. There's lots of different products out there. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, whether it's equity mining, CRM, even direct mail. And, you're really looking for someone that brings that value-added experience. You can trust them. And I think the trust is the most important thing because if you're really going to build a relationship with a vendor, it's got to be a partnership, and you got to trust them with your data, and you got to be able to open up with them and let them understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, and share some pretty big goals with them, and help to make a relationship that's going to allow you to accomplish them.
Couldn't agree more. Fantastic answer.
Thank you, Bill. And let me ask you, John. I mean, kind of going into. I mean, Matt and I've had some discussions on this recently as well, and I'm not sure there's just one answer, but the headache in some cases of dealers really landing on a DMS and kind of these woes when it comes to Bill mentioned data. I mean, what do you think the answer? And I mean, maybe because I think that you guys probably talk about this a lot, but what do you think the answer ultimately is? To this dilemma that dealers, because I got a lot of clients that I talk to all the time, and I talk to them every 3 or 4 months, and they're going through a change. I mean, that's a pain in the butt, I would imagine. So, I mean, what do you think, John? Where do you think we're headed when it comes to dealing with a DMS and the woes that sometimes dealers may have to go through, and then also some of the data that may be held hostage, some of these things that we run into? I mean, do you have any opinion on that?
We get as frustrated dealing with Reynolds and Reynolds as everybody else. Unfortunately, they're the big guy in the room, and we have to adhere to them and go by their guidelines. I'm in a great NCM dealer group, and there's a lot of startups out there in different DMSs that some of our guys are trying or exploring. But in the end, it's just a major reconfiguration of your process in your store. And quite frankly, we would rather focus on trying to generate some revenue and some growth and keep our customers happy right now than to tackle that big bear.
Right.
As far as data security, there's Authenticom and several companies out there that you could trust and do, and obviously we have legal counsel and we have non-disclosures that everybody has to sign, but you're really, as Bill said, you got to be able to trust your vendors, and not using the fly-by-night startups will probably help you somewhere along the way there.
Do you have any? Do you want to weigh in on that at all, Matt? Is there anything you could add to that? Or, I mean, I just think it's a little bit of a dilemma that possibly dealers, some might want to avoid, dealing with right now. I think I don't think it's. I think it's wisdom, maybe where he's at right now, that his focus is not there. But I talk to dealers a lot, that are going through transitions, and it's really a headache, And I don't know if a lot of them know what to do. And it's just something, it wasn't a question I had down, but it was just something that popped up and I thought of when Bill was talking.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of dealers that are in the same standpoint. We've been asking for a lot of years for a solution. Our DMSs, and you know, the Reynolds being one of them, the way that they're willing to interact with third parties, the excuse would be that they're trying to protect and securities and information. But in truth, they choose who they work with, and the ones that don't make it very hard for a dealer to mesh what they're doing. Kind of like a John, you have to be prepared for it as a company. If your company's not stable in every area, it wouldn't be the time to make a DMS move because it can turn everything upside down in so many departments. But if you're, a real strong company that's got a lot of process in place, it can be something where you're chasing a solution. The difference is, I couldn't tell you right now a solution that beats any of the others because I feel like almost all of them have some type of a flaw, whether one's real expensive or one's inexpensive and it's not as nimble as others. But it's definitely a challenge for all the dealers out there.
Yeah, and we opened up with John talking about the segregation of departments and trying to get that figured out in order to not miss opportunities. And he also talked about, capturing leads in the service department. We know there's huge opportunity there. So, Bill, I'll go to you and ask you if there's anything at your stores that you have in place where there's a more of a seamless transition or a handoff, or at least some way to capture those leads coming through service.
Sure. Well, we do use a traditional BDC, and within our BDC we have a service equity mining department, and we have 2 full-time girls, and they're going through our X-time appointments every day for the next day or 2 days out, looking for customers who may be in a position to get out of their lease or loan, and making appointments, bring them in. Right now we're selling about 45 cars a month, but I think realistically that should be double. We probably should be doing 90 to 100 cars a month just out of the service lane. It's great. They take a little more work because the customer is not necessarily in the market. But when you do make those deals, the gross profit's going to be much better because the customer's not out in the market shopping. So they take a little more time to put together, but when they do, I think they're well worth it.
Just a question real quick thank you, Bill. Question real quick for John, and just I would like to get all your takes on this as well. And before we shift, I think Tommy has a question on subprime here in a minute too. But John, if you're measuring, performance, and again, I want to get Matt's and Bill's take on this. You guys just chime right in when John's finished. But John, if you're measuring performance, by your desk guys, I mean, don't you have a risk that they will pass on short deals? Is that something that you have a risk on?
That's a great point. We use Accessa, which is now owned by Reynolds & Reynolds, but it's a reporting software where you literally can, at a glance, see anything you want to see. Front-end grosses per manager, back-end total. You can sort it however you want. And, one negative that we had when we turned on Accessa is everybody was so laser focused on their total PVR that they stopped taking short deals and bleeders because they didn't want their numbers to look bad. So what we created was what's called a top 10 report. And a top 10 report simply takes their top 10 front and back gross deals for the month and shows them on the report and what their average PVR is just on those top 10. So obviously it eliminates any negatives, it eliminates any bleeders, and our adage is make the gross on the deals you can make the gross on. The problem is when you get sales managers so conditioned to give cars away, they're giving cars away to people that are willing to pay a gross. So that top 10 report ranks top to bottom by our executive managers or desk managers, whatever you call them, and it gets emailed out to everybody every day. And then what we do is we put a bonus on at the end of the month, top 3, $1,500 for first, $1,000 for second, and $500 for third. But now we got a guy that's not adverse to taking a short deal, when he knows it's really not going to make him look bad. And we stopped looking at Accessa just for that reason at that specific report. And to your point about, you talked earlier about the service drive. there's so many unique things that you can do in that drive now. We use eLead as a CRM, and what you could do in eLead is they have what's called Perfect Prospect. So number one, you can pop it right up to your desk log every day, which shows the people that are coming in. But what we do is we created an email with a $25 Visa card just for an appraisal and a $250 bonus if they sell us their card within sell or trade within 5 days. And we inserted a code video from our lane manager with that pitch, and that goes out to all the people that are coming in the next day that are lying in Perfect Prospect. And then with eLead, and I'm sure with some of the other CRMs, now you can do what's called a voice drop from that same lane manager, drop it on their voicemail, and remind them when they're coming in the next day. So it literally is a BDC calling the people, except there's no ring. It goes on their voicemail. It's the actual guy that's doing it, and you can do it pretty much dirt cheap.
So they're presenting.
Go ahead.
They're presented with that offer prior to showing up for their appointment. Is that correct, John?
Correct.
It's awesome.
Was that you, Matt? Were you weighing in, Matt, or Bill?
Yeah, I was going to jump in on the desking thing. I've got a couple things that we do that kind of tie into what John was touched on. But desking, a desk manager's job is definitely to maximize every opportunity. So we do something very similar to job. We do a top 5, bottom 5 act. What we take is every manager's top 5 deals and bottom 5 deals for the month and stack them up on a spreadsheet, all 6 managers against each other. And what that also shows is it'll find out if I do have a manager that's not willing to take the small deal. As much as it is important that they're taking the big deal, the manager that does take time for the mini is the one that might cost you the market share, the volume we're trying to accomplish, the trading you need, etc., and or turning a day around to your car lot. We found a manager that wasn't selling any negative front-end grosses, and he was the one that was passing a lot of opportunities on paid units. So you got to look at it both ways, I think, when you look at desking. I love John's idea of the top 10. We do it with 5, and then I also would say looking at the bottom 5 is another avenue to take advice and look at. The other next step is take a look at just their front end versus their group and just their back end versus their group. If someone in there is way off versus the rest, there's something wrong in their process, and we usually can find it and find that avenue within desking that they're hurting themselves by not going out for the last bump or not trying to get involved in the deal early enough. And usually you can improve that desk manager by just finding that area that they're not matching up with their peers.
Let me ask Bill, do you want to weigh in on that at all? Do you have?
Taking short deals is unfortunately part of the business. But at the same time, we do things a little bit differently. We do measure total gross every day, but we also hold our sales managers accountable, and they're paid on market share. So while we're watching the gross, and those of you who know me know I love gross, we still want to make sure that we're owning our ASA, that we're number one in our ASA, we're number one in our competitors' ASA, and we're going to incentivize our sales managers to make sure that happens every month. So we have a balance between making the most of every opportunity we can, but when it's a customer that's in our primary market area, we're going to do whatever we got to do to put the deal together.
That's good.
So, hey, Matt, real quick, when it comes to, would you agree with this, the fact that maybe credit scores are on the uptick as a rule or as a trend in general? Off subject we just came from.
That was like diving into a cold pool. That was good.
It was refreshing. It's refreshing when you dive into a cold pool, Dave. That's what it is. So back to my question for us. So rudely interrupted, Mr. Matt Lasco. Would you agree, as a rule, that credit scores are on the uptick? Or you could ignore me. It's
Can
cool.
you hear Matt?
I think Matt's not with us. I'm
Might have
assuming.
lost him.
What do you guys think? And we can address this with John or with Bill. Are you guys seeing that? Is that an industry trend that the credit scores are going up?
Can't say we're seeing that at all. In fact, we're starting to see a slight degradation in credit scores, and 101 performance.
Okay, so that's in Jersey. Okay, now what about you, John? No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I wonder if it's a regional thing. John, what about Florida? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I don't know where you've seen that data because we're not seeing that either. We think things are getting worse. I think the consumer right now, the amount of negative equity is increasing. Credit scores are flat to down, and the consumer is in as bad a shape as they've probably been. But we got an election coming, so maybe we could do something about that.
Okay, well, John, let me throw this out there then, John. I mean, I think that like subprime lenders are the ones that may be struggling right now. I mean, they're in my experience, they're continuing to fight for market share, because more standard lenders, more traditional lenders are buying deeper. They're I mean, don't you see that maybe some of the subprime lenders are struggling a little bit out there?
Well, yeah. I mean, in the real world, you have. We're printing money. We got, public companies can borrow money dirt cheap. You have subprime lenders that can, borrow low and sell high, and it's been a run that's lasted for, a good amount of years now that we've enjoyed. But subprime delinquencies are ticking up right now, and the general dollar amount of subprime loans is at an all-time high. So I don't know that it's going to get better from here, but to your point, I do see the captives getting more aggressive. We have Toyota and Honda, which aren't the most aggressive on your weaker score credit tiers, but in general, I mean, you look at Hyundai and Kia and some of these other manufacturers, they're getting pretty aggressive in that area. But it's definitely going to be interesting. If the bond market dries up for some of these subprime, dealers or lenders out there, it really could change the game.
Yeah, and I think what you were referring to also, Dave, is the fact that these what we traditionally knew as the primary lenders are now in that secondary game heavily, and it probably is because of what John and Bill mentioned. The credit scores we continue to see kind of subpar credit scores as a big part of the market, and we can't afford to miss it. Neither can the lenders. And let's go to Matt. Are you back with us, Matt?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So subprime, like you said, it's almost like it's not even a subprime unless you're talking deep subprime, because every bank has got some type of a program. The part that I've really been watching that I'm concerned with is I've watched the vast majority of them in the past 6 months start to really hone in on their loan to values. So they're starting to take some losses, and as the wholesale market, in my opinion, is going to continue to soften for the next 12 months, I think they're in fear of even bigger loss for repo. So the challenge is most of our subprime clients we sold 2.5 years ago are still coming in with some negative equity. So it's a challenge to put that person into a pre-owned car and stay within some of these LTV guidelines. So I think what you might see as a trend going forward is some of these new vehicles that have heavier incentives being utilized to sell that what used to be a pre-owned subprime customer and put them into a subprime new car, so that they can chew up some of that advance with the rebate. It could be interesting as that evolves. Personally, I know that a couple of the large ones have some internal conversation going on right now where they really are limiting on their higher risk loans. They're going to continue to fight on LTV because they can see the margins of loss increasing over the next 6 months pretty heavily.
Let me ask you, Bill. I mean, you guys are a big subprime dealership as well. You obviously, you said you love gross and you believe in making some money. So, I mean, is it still, because we're talking to three? I mean, I think our listeners, we don't like to have anybody on the show that's not aggressive and strong. So you guys are obviously hammers and successful dealers and dealerships. But the dealers that are listening right now that may not be moving as many units, and I mean, doesn't it still come down to the fact that this takes some creativity? Because what Matt's talking about, with some dealers may stay away from it because you're looking at it and you're going, okay, well, I have a customer because I'm advertising to that customer. They're coming in, so I'm risking ticking them off forever because I can't get them bought and they came in because they were interested. because I'm advertising to them, but that, to stay in these guidelines, the LTV guidelines, and stay in this, to basically put this deal together. Doesn't it still take that relationship and that creativity? And would you think this is a good time, Bill, for some dealers to aggressively get into this market if they're not, or maybe, or is it a time that we're gonna see dealers maybe shrink back even more, and it leaves more room for the aggressive? Is that it make sense?
Yeah, I don't see anything that's showing the subprime banks pulling back. They do tend to move in cycles. One bank will be strong for a 4 to 6 month period. They'll have some loan losses. They'll pull back, but another one will step right in and fill the void. I think that on the flip side, much like we were talking about with vendors, it comes down to a relationship. It's the same thing with your banks. I think if you want to do a lot of business, I think guys make mistakes of having 20 banks, 25 different banks, and sign up every guy who knocks on their door. And especially subprime, these deals take time to work. They got to be pieced together. So the better thing in my mind is having 5 or 6 really strong lenders that you can have a large portfolio with. You can balance the portfolios, spread the A paper with the D paper. We've had real good success with some of the more full spectrum lenders, Capital One, Wells Fargo, buying very, very deep. But you have to offer them some of the A paper too to offset the losses. I don't see any reason why the subprime market is going to disappear anytime soon, especially as more and more people seem to be falling into it. I do think John's dead on. Maybe the difference between now and pre-recession is the LTVs. You're not seeing the same level of no-doc loans. You're not seeing the same level of crazy advances. The banks have really started getting smarter with PTI, DTI, payment caps, and just making sure that they're going to buy a tough deal, but they're going to make sure that the customer has at least the ability to pay.
That's good. We're going to have a couple more minutes because I know you guys are busy as well. So we're going to go to Cribbs here and let him kind of pose a question that we can get you guys all to weigh in on a couple of minutes and close out. And just one thing too to think about. I'd like to maybe just ask, just following up on the subprime, and then maybe one of you guys can weigh in on this on your closing thoughts. But I mean, is it beneficial? I mean, what are these banks' fees? These VIGs, are they? Is it worth some? Is it still? Are we in a place where there's somebody that strong that's worth that type of fee too? In other words. Kind of talking a little more about this. This turns me on. I like talking about subprime. We had somebody tweet in that says subprime loans have been 60 to 90 days delinquent, higher than ever. So we're having a lot of conversation on this from social media. But Cribbs, in addition to that, what would you like him to talk about in closing?
Well, actually, what I'd like to hear, all 3 of these gentlemen are steering the ship, if you will, at the dealership. They're responsible for the dealer's future, and I'm sure they're thinking about that constantly. And I would like to hear from each of you, what is it that is a concern that you look at, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road? What are you thinking about right now that you have to have in place, or something you want to avoid, or something you want to add to your business in the next few years? John?
Well, several things. One that top of my head is the fact that you have a lot of public money going after these startup used car operations, and the BBs and different things like that. But the newest one is going to be Uber. We are an authorized Uber dealer at Sun Toyota, and they just made a public announcement that they're going to be opening up Uber showrooms in every major city in the country, and basically offer pre-owned vehicles, no new vehicles, so they don't have an issue with franchise laws. And they're going to be basically leasing used cars to Uber drivers or people that want to become Uber drivers. So it's just an additional threat. And then, some of these independents that want to deliver a car, give people a 10-day exchange policy. When you have public money, you can take one-time write-offs. You can manipulate the books a little bit and charge recon to advertising and not post it to the card. There's different things you can do. And, Amazon has proved you can be very unprofitable for a very long period of time, and investors really don't care. We get a financial statement at the end of every month, and if our grosses aren't good and our net to gross isn't 30%, either we're beating ourselves up or our owner's beating us upon the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then Matt Lasco.
That's good.
Well, I agree with John. There's a lot of outside influences. So one of the areas that we feel as a franchise we're going to have major control on is the fixed operations world. So we are going to continue to grow our parts department to where we can serve independent repair places, wholesale, etc. Not just with the top line Ford products, but with whatever products we have that we can be a distributor of. And we're going to also we've increased our service department from 7 technicians to 40 technicians in the past 3 years. And every single one of those technicians is at full capacity, turning 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 hours. So we think that as the product has continued to become more complex, that the franchise dealer might have an edge going into the future against any outside influence or third party trying to repair those cars. So we're going to continue to grow that area and focus on letting the public know what we can do to service their car. And in the entire environment of it, delivering such an experience that's good that they'll continue to come back. And we're very much like the other 2 dealers on the show today. We live in our service lane. We've got our own team that works on resale out of the service lane. And what we've learned is as you build that service department, you bring in a lot of conquest clients that have never bought from you, but now they're servicing, and then they become an internal opportunity to actually sell them in the future. So we think that's one of our biggest areas of growth going forward.
That's good. Mr. Bill Feinstein.
I try not to worry about the things I can't control. This business has seen many third-party interlopers over the years, and some have been successful, and some have ended up like Frogger in the middle of the highway. I'm not going to worry over much about some of these startups right now. What we are going to worry about is things that are in our control right now. There's some macroeconomic signals that are a little concerning to us. We're starting to get our house in order, trimming some of the fat, really looking at all of our cost centers, all of our processes, making sure that we can do a little more with a little less. I don't think it's a matter of if there's going to be a recession. I think it's just a matter of when. And we'd rather be lean and mean going into it than digging our head in the sand. And I think, I hate to say we're kind of looking forward to it, but we've always thrived a little more in a down economy. We tend to get really, really aggressive when a lot of guys are pulling the reins in. To me, it's a great opportunity to grab market share. So, we're getting ready to make sure that our house is on order when things get a little rough here. We're ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. We're going to do this, guys. We're going to let you guys go, but before we do, after we're going to bring on our guest that's going to come on after you guys get off. She's going to be with us for the last part of the show after you guys, and we're going to bring her on and give her a chance to ask you guys a question, and then we're going to let you guys go. Then we're going to go to commercial, and we're going to come back with Subi. But Subi Go, she's a vice president, VP over at Dealer Authority. She's coming on again after the commercial break to talk for about 10 minutes or so with us about some of the things that we talked about with you to kind of weigh in on it. But she had a question. I want to bring her on now. And Subi, thanks for joining us a little early. And before we let Bill, Matt, and John go, why don't you ask your question and maybe get one of them to answer it, and then we'll come back and talk to you some more.
Sure. I mean, to be honest, it was really right in line with what Bill was talking about. I was, experts and pundits are saying that we're likely headed to one of the worst automotive recessions of our time. And what can people do within management roles to proactively look at that? We can't control everything that happens around us. We can't control the election drawing people away from us and so forth. But what can we do proactively to overcome such a slide in sales. And I think Bill touched on that a little bit, but maybe we can dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, did Matt, do you or John have maybe a comment on that before we let you guys go? Does anybody want to tackle that? Maybe just.
Well, I don't. Someone said this best. You know, the Ubers, the Lyfts, and everyone else. It's certainly cars, right? So I don't see the automotive industry going into a spiral. And honestly, I think that there's so much else going on in our economy in the positive way that it's just not going to be as easy to do great business. You're not going to do $199 a piece forever and make money. You're going to have to sell a car, sell a quality car, fix a car, do a lift kit on a truck, do a tuner kit on a Mustang. You're going to have to maximize every opportunity and then squeeze a little bit out of everything you can gain profit on throughout the sale. It's like going into the gas stations that are the big Taj Mahals. They're not making the money on the $1.09 gas. They're making the money on everything they surround their client with. And I think car dealers are going to have to take this giant property and huge building we have and learn how to offer lots of great things inside of it that can produce revenue for us. If we do that, then we'll roll through the automotive economy just fine.
Thank you, Matt. Let's go to John for a closing comment.
Great answer.
Bill and Matt are spot on with that. Expense reduction, cutting out the fat, non-productive employees, looking at, and then Matt's exactly right with increasing revenue every area. I mean, we're looking at, ways that we could legally and compliantly increase our gross, increase our loyalty, increase our retention, increase the products that we sell. For instance, our accessory department, when we took over the Toyota store, they did $15-20 grand a month. We're now doing $150 grand per month, and that was simply nobody was really trying. And there was a bunch of revenue just sitting out there that nobody was taking advantage of. Looking at your finance department, making sure you're a minimum of $1,500 a copy and 2 products per deal, and if you're not, taking the steps to get there, and making sure that your fixed operation, some states allow it and some states don't, but if your state allows it, you need to make sure that you applied and work for your warranty uplift on both your part side and your labor side. You could be leaving $400,000 or $500,000 a year on the table if you haven't done that and your state allows it. So, these are the things you just got to look into and just figure out every way to, take advantage of every aspect of revenue generation.
Yeah, hey, John, real quick, that move from $15 grand a month to $150 grand a month on accessories, was that just on fresh deliveries?
Correct. They are not preloaded items. They are pure sales after the customer says yes.
Nice. And Bill, closing comments?
Well, I think the guys hit on it perfectly. It really is about expense control. And for us, we did an exercise yesterday. We listed every single employee at the dealership, figured out what they did, who they worked for, and if it's someone we're going to need going forward. And are they being productive? Are they being as productive as they need to be? And because at the end of the day, your biggest asset and your biggest expense is the headcount and the people who work for you. And if you've got a great team, you'll be able to weather the storm. But if you got a lot of fat and guys aren't producing, you're going to have some problems going forward.
Great. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
I was just gonna make a everybody talks about maybe multiple products or revenue streams within the dealership. I got 2 words for you guys, and you guys can run with it if you want. Farmers market. Just a suggestion. You're welcome.
All right. On that note, Bill, Matt, John, man, thank you guys for being with us, and really do appreciate the time that you guys dedicated to, I'm sure, helping a lot of people. And took plenty of notes myself, man. I think one of the things I'm just going to leave you guys with is that what you're listening to right now are 3 people who when they're posed with the question, what happens when things get tough? The answer basically, get tougher. Yeah. You just do better. Mm-hmm. You just hustle. You just work. You just make something happen. You innovate. You get. What I'm saying. You win. You keep going. You don't give up. You don't stop. So that's what I hear. That makes me feel good. And as an American. But anyway, man, thank you guys so much. And then for being with us and taking time out of your extremely busy schedules. And Subi, don't go anywhere, because the next up, right after this commercial, we're going to talk some more with Subi Ghosh and pick her brain.
Yep. So the next up, we're going to take a look at the commercials. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on the principal's office today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Rice from Lot Pop, and let me tell you what we do to help dealerships increase used car sales 20 to 30% in gross in volume. 3 areas we focus on: trend reports. We look at weekly trends that no one else is trending to make adjustments on our inventory. 2 is we do weekly review calls to review those trends, but also we dig through every car that needs to be price adjusted to increase the searches. And 3, we do a virtual lot walk, make sure every car is standing tall in line, and make sure we don't have bad photos like these. Check out our website, lotpop.com. our blog at automotiverevolution.com, and our weekly video tips at increaseturn.com. Thanks.
Service Group has over 40 years of experience empowering dealerships to grow profits, develop personnel, and provide their customers with a high level of service. We offer high-quality products, world-class servicing, and innovative training and technology. Meet our team: first-class trainers, the best account managers, and an executive team that's second to none.
This is your Service Group team. We look forward to giving your people the power to perform.
The We Get It series is a set of customer-driven videos highlighting real reasons to buy from your dealership. This series features real car buyers digitally inserted into your showroom to create a unique but authentic message that your customers will relate to. At What's Next Media, the footage we produce and customer opinions that we have on file are compiled with your custom scripts, music, graphics, logos to create an effective and uniquely affordable set of custom videos. Let us do all the hard work, you take all the credit.
Hi, I'm Chip Perry. Earlier this year, we made a pledge to dealers that outlined some major changes designed to make TrueCar a more positive place for you to do business. I can't say enough how valuable your feedback has been and how much we believe that your ongoing advice and guidance will enable us to continue to improve our service to you in meaningful ways. On behalf of everyone at TrueCar, I want to sincerely thank you for your support and guidance while we are making these fundamental changes needed to ensure that TrueCar works better for you. See more at truecar.com/pledge.
And we're back. We're back, and you just heard our sponsors. Thank you very much to our sponsors. And we've got the next up, which is Subi Ghosh with Dealer Authority. And Subi, you were in
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
It's just you.
Well, you were in the good. Thank you. You were in the principal's office. So, what did you learn when you came out of there?
Good one.
In real life, I've never
He's
been.
been working
This
on
was
that for a
definitely
while.
learning experience for me. I learned quite a bit. I think it's important for everyone to kind of see what happens at the top. For people in that role, I think it's great to hear from successful people that are in that role. But for everyone else, I think people just are in that one-track mind of this is my department and this is what I need to achieve, that they don't see kind of the big picture. So I liked hearing from all of them, because what makes them so successful is that they're not just looking at sales numbers or lead numbers. They're successful because they're thinking outside the box. They're creating interesting bonuses to work their way out of maybe challenges they have, and they're breaking the mold in what is typical for a dealership. So I think those kinds of things are exceptionally important. Measuring performance, following through on promises, those kinds of things.
That's good. What do you think, T?
I'm going to keep going because I've got notes.
Yeah, I'm sure you did take notes. I wanted you to weigh in on my farmer's market idea, but other than that, yeah, let's hear what else you have.
Well, I think Bill talked about vendor selection. I think that's spot on. It's incredibly important to choose the right vendors based on reputation and what their products are. But I think it goes a step further than that, because far too often we choose vendors based on our relationships, and we overlook some of the things that we wouldn't had it not just been for that relationship. So I would ask, even if you're friends, when I was on that side, I would hold each of my friends to the fire. Regardless of how close we were, your product needs to evolve. It needs to have the right type of performance and hit the ROIs that we're looking for. And there needs to be a willingness to evolve, to move forward with your product. So I would take that one step further when you're looking at vendors and who to pick and who to hold on to. If we truly are headed towards a recession, that's crucial. But I really loved Matt's explanation. Embracing the changes and not looking so pessimistically at what could be an impending recession, I think that's key, right? Bill said that we can't control everything around us, and that's so true. But to have a plan and to proactively prepare our dealerships for what could be is huge. A lot of people make these decisions off of a report they saw that is comparing this month to last month. But you got to zoom out a little bit, go 30,000 foot. My last GM that I worked with taught me that, because being the director of sales was totally different for me. But when you zoom out and you look at everything, not just how you've performed year over year and what trends are coming up because we've been evaluating our own data, but also a step further of what's going on in the world around us, what's going on in the region, those kinds of things do affect us. If anyone doesn't think that the way politics, the way people are reacting to politics now isn't keeping them off of social media, or isn't because of people's fears, they're not pursuing big retail purchases as much as they would be, you're kind of lying to yourself. So you should be looking at all of those things, those big things that can still affect the retail environment. So those are some things that I would definitely
Did you have any notes or any feedback on John and Matt specifically when we were talking about the question on the short deals and maybe having a desk manager risk that they're going to pass on them, and both of them had similar basically I would call it incentivized, almost like an incentivizing plan to because what Bill Feinstein said is inevitably going to happen. That's just part of the business. So Matt and John have, and I like that. I didn't want to spend more time on it, but I almost said, you're listening to people who are doing something about what every dealer that's listening right now has an issue with, if you do it or not, And so let me ask you this, Subi, it's at least they're proactively saying, hey, what can we do, to make sure that we handle this issue, passing on short deals, this issue with, that we all face. And I just think that just goes back to what you said a second ago, where, you got some people that are thinking out of the box and they're creative.
Yeah. I like their position, and the way that they go about it is coming up with creative solutions, any challenge, all of the things that you're talking about, all of these little challenges that everyone faces, either we can do it exactly the way that we've been doing it and hope for a different result, or we can come up with things that motivate the people that are handling those things to react differently and create a different result. You can train people, you can coach people to have a different result if you give them a reason to and teach them how. So I think both John and Matt, the way they explained it was kind of perfect and spot on to what we should be doing right now.
Awesome.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And I'm glad you came on live at the end. I'm glad you came on too and got a chance to ask that question. That was a really good question, and I think it helped wrap up the panel
I
perfectly.
think it's something that everyone's afraid of, right? Like when experts are telling you that this is going to happen and it's going to be worse than everything else, I think a lot of people just get crippled with fear. But to hear people that are not only embracing it and saying, hey, this could be a really great opportunity for us and looking at it in a very optimistic light, but also like, here are some of the ways that we look at things and we treat these challenges and come up with out-of-the-box ideas. Ask around. There's so many people that are doing creative things like these guys that
one of
they're
the things
successful because of the way that they think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know they know, and I know that it's easy to Google your name and find you and all of that good stuff. But just in case they don't, tell our listeners how they can follow you, find you, listen to you, and get a hold of you so they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at Subi101, or you can just look me up on Facebook, Subi Ghosh. I'm the only one in automotive that I know of. And you can just Google me. But if you want to call or if you have any questions, I will absolutely give you my number. It's 716-480-6135. And just connect, and not just with me, but with anyone that is out there speaking to automotive. Everyone seems to be willing to help. So connect with people.
Thank you, Subi. Thank you so much for connecting with us today, and we appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Subi.
Well, I love it. Having Subi on and talking about it, something that I know we're over time, but something that came up with when we were talking about Subi's question on the recession or just what do you suggest we do, and then some of the guys were talking about it. It's a really interesting thing because people don't like talking about it. And I'm that kind of guy that doesn't like. I don't want to talk about. I'm not a doom and gloom guy at all.
Right.
Bottom line is, no matter what the climate is, you just have to do what you got to do. And I think that if you do that, you end up on top. But one of the things that Matt said that we really can't underestimate, I know you followed up with a question, but a few months ago when we were over at Brandon Honda and we did the remote show, I mean, you were there too. We were there at Brandon Honda, and John just had taken over Sun Toyota and mentioned that live, started talking about some of these numbers about increasing his accessories and some of these other things, I think parts, and just really increasing some things. If you remember, and I can go back and listen to the tape and find out exactly, but it wasn't like he initiated some big ad campaign or he did and rolled out and and spent all this money or unveiled some giant campaign. It was cutting fat. It was changing a personnel, a person that had never done it before but had the right attitude, and replacing it with a stagnant person that thought they had done everything they could. And it was just a couple of shifts like that. And those two shifts, if you look at it during this time where some people were worried about business slowing down, John's increasing exponentially. So I think that that's an amazing testimony to what it takes, what happens when you think out of the box, and when you go after it. What do you think?
Well, I could go honestly. I could go on and on about what he's done at that store. There's so many things that kind of stick out in my head about some of the things I've heard.
Including the hat.
Including the hat. But one thing I'll mention about one thing I'll mention about the dealer principles today and the comments in regards to that question is when John first answered and spoke and brought up the Uber thing, and he brought up what sounded like Carvana and some of those publicly traded companies that are kind of putting their hands in the till, if you will. I didn't sense the fear. What I sensed there was, hey, it's more of an awareness, like, hey, this is going on, this is coming, have a plan, get it right, and so that you're not affected by it. And then we flipped over to Matt, and we heard the answer because Matt said, hey, here's what I recognize. They're not going to be able to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and follow an owner through the ownership process. And they're preparing.
If you recall
for
the question you asked, and it is, if you recall the question he asked, it was actually exactly that, because it wasn't hey John, what do you fear the most? What do you see as the negative? It was a question along the lines of what next? What do you see yourself adding to your dealership and doing next to stay on the cutting edge, so to speak, to continue to grow?
Correct.
So what John was saying, and he didn't get around maybe to saying everything, was his answer was, hey, this is what's going on, so I need to find a way to do it at my store.
Right.
I need to find a way, and I've said that, and you and I talked about this a lot. Dealerships, why? I mean, look, the internet, man, is we're on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
The interwebs too.
Hello. Yeah. I mean,
And
so
on the
the
way
internet's
roads.
the internet, brother. Put together a platform and a plan. Why can't a dealership be their own internet, department? Why do you need a Carvana or something of that nature? And
Right.
and so that doesn't matter. It's just a process and getting a process down. So
I also really loved, by the way, the fact that John brought up that desegregation of these different departments, because I think that's an issue that's been around for so many years, where we work in separate departments and we work in separate departments.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have one experience, one atmosphere, one culture, and seamless handoffs, and everyone really needs to understand the mission of everyone else in the dealership.
People ask, why do you, sometimes we have a lot of the same guys on, especially when it gets to these dealer principals. And we have some new guests on, I think 4 dealer principals on next week, and we have some new faces. And of course, Bill Feinstein's been on once, but he's a fairly new face. But one of the reasons we do that is we work with a lot of dealers. We could have a lot of dealers on the show, but John Marazzi, Matt Lasco, we have people on that I think are forward thinking and forward moving. And one of the things I've always admired about John is it's almost like he listens to the show, or if he doesn't, he listens to the people who are on it, and he listens to people that are saying some of the similar things. Because John, if you read between the lines, what he's saying by bringing some of these things together is he's experimenting with this BDC hybrid salesperson that's not separate and unplugged from everything else in some other layer. He's really truly trying it, and it's working for him. He's turned his store into a machine, and so is Matt. Matt's doing things that are unorthodox by dealership standards that are selling him dozens of additional cars every month. He's killing it on the phone. I'm not talking about BDC and internet. He was on a couple weeks ago on owning the phone. Matt is literally owning the phone. He has an inside sales platform in his dealership. And I'm telling you, man, there's some serious, crazy, cool stuff going on. And we're going to get to know what Bill Feinstein's doing more. But, Tommy, it's having some of the guys that are moving the needle on. And honestly, I learn something every time. It's like reading the Bible or something. Every time you read it, you learn something. Every time I got John on, every time I have Matt on, every time I got these guys on, I learn something myself. And it's the same people. Why? Because they're always moving forward. Iron sharpening iron, man. So if you're listening, hey, give me somebody better that we need to have on.
And this is one of the few places, maybe the only place, where
Right.
that Dave, one of the things I think about is the people who are at the sales level, the BDC level, the whatever department you're in at a dealership, they're oftentimes, as employees there, you're not privy to these conversations that the GMs are having with the GSMs and whatnot. And here, you're privy to it on Auto Dealer Live,
Right.
and
That's a good point.
it's
Yep.
a really cool thing.
It's true. It's a good point. It's a really good point.
That's it.
What say you?
Well, I think we did it. I think we came, we saw, we conquered. That's what we're here to do.
Show us your guns, man. Come on, give us a little bit. Give me a little bit, man. A little bit one time. Just one time.
Nah, they don't want it.
One time.
They don't want to see it.
Come
It's
on,
okay.
do it.
It's
Do
all
it.
right. Nah.
Tommy,
the Hogan. Do the Hogan.
Tommy. Come on, do a dab.
Do a dab? I tell my kids all the
Dab.
time when they dab,
Is
I'm
it
like,
dab?
Dab.
it's dab,
That's
yeah.
what I said.
Dab?
Dab.
What's a
Do a
dab?
dab. What I say? You think
No,
it's
no,
that?
it's that. No.
What's a dab? Is that
Dab.
like a
Do I
dab?
put it up on
Go.
the screen?
Dab.
No, I'm not dabbing, first of all. I tell my kids,
All right, either one or the other. You got your
I'm
one
not-
gun, one gun or dab. Come on.
I'm not
Ready?
going to do it either.
Come on, man.
Give me a
Why
gun.
don't you do a gun?
Gun.
Dab.
Give us
Is
a gun.
that like a plank?
Come on, guys. We got
Dab.
30 seconds. Give me a gun. Give me a gun. Somebody, give me a gun, Dave. Come on. Do it. Do it.
It's a small set, Dave.
Come on. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Boom.
Tommy, don't get scary. He just showed us his neck.
I got neck muscles to flex, son.
All right, guys. Hey, don't fret. Don't forget.
Don't fret. Don't forget.
Don't
That's
forget.
that's
Don't
fretting
fret.
and forgetting at the same time. Next week we have Principal's Office Part 2. Who's going to be on? You got to stay tuned. It's really cool. We got some good guys and gals on next week. We got Subprime. We got How to Increase Your ROI for Marketing Dollars coming up here soon, the next few weeks. BDC to Floor Sales 101 and Sales and Service Collaboration. We'd love to have you on the show. If you're interested, get a hold of us.
You can call me directly. Call me at my desk.
Yeah.
Look up the number on my on the websites.
IPDmail.com.
IPDmail.com. I'm the senior executive vice president in charge of Good.
Of your desk.
I don't have any. I have my desk.
And if you have a sales team or a desk man in your service drive, we want to hear from you as well.
Yes, we do.
We want you on that show.
What do you say, gents? It's on. It's off.
It's on.
See you later.
God bless you. Good night. Bye.